Happy Mother's Day. Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31. We all have stories about our mothers, don't we? Some funny, some serious. I was talking to one of my coworkers, and they were saying about how mean their moms were and everything. And I said, back in the 70s when the state started coming into the schools and telling the kids that they had any problems in the home, the state would come in and help them. And she said, yeah, I remember them talking about that. I said, what did you do? She said, well, I told my mom. And I said, did your mom say anything? She said, no. She said, I have nothing to hide. I said, well, my mom said that you can call them, but by the time you call them and they come here, there'll be no evidence that there was a James Fryer living in the house. so I said, that's the difference between your mom and my mom. She was very poignant in what she was trying to get across. Because back then it was like leave my hands off my family or else. Proverbs 31. We're going to look at verses 28 through 30, and it says this. Verse 28 says, her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. So since this is Mother's Day, I've sort of just geared all the lessons and Sunday school and morning service and, regarding Mother's Day. And today we're going to look at ways we can honor Mom. Say, well, my mom's gone. How can I honor her? Well, there's other ways you can do this. And I know that when Mother's Day is tough, what I will normally do is I'll just take some time and I'll play some of her favorite songs that she used to like. And I'll do like we used to when we were kids, just sit down and just be quiet and listen to the music. Or I will go and buy a certain type of flower and then give it to like a nursing home or something like that. Just different ways to honor my mom. As I say at every funeral, the best way to honor those that have passed on is live the traits that impressed you and put it into your life so that this way their memory goes on. And the Bible tells us that favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. And so we're going to look at some practical ways of honoring Mom. First thing is this: have patience with your mother. Have patience with your mother. Look at Colossians chapter 3. Colossians chapter 3. Now I know in these days and ages which we're living today that the aspect of technology and things like that, many of the older generation have struggled with. My father never had a computer, never had a desire for a computer. Now, Mom worked for old Mom back in the 60s, and then she worked for Verizon and a couple of places down in Florida. So she had some technological abilities. Now, not very much, but just enough to be dangerous. And so, but the aspect of being patient, because I know there were times that Mom would get involved with something and then she would get so frustrated, and I would get frustrated because Mom got frustrated, and it was either shut up, Jim, or get out of the house. I don't need your comments. Yes, ma'am. So just patience. The aspect of there's things that's going to frustrate them now that to us may seem like, well, that's simple to be accomplished. Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 and 13 says this. Put on, therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering, forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. And above all these things, put on charity, which is the bond of perfectness. The aspect of having patience with mom. You know, when you think about how much patience mom put up with all throughout our years, now I'm sure she expressed her feelings to you, and my mom expressed her feelings to me. And of course, my sisters always said I was the glory child. And I was the one that was most favored. I said, well, no, I was the one that got beat the most. That's why. But the fact that, so I'm the oldest and always the firstborn, normally gets a little extra favor for a little while, unless you can milk it for a little longer. And I knew how to milk it. Because I knew my grandmother, if I made grandma happy, it didn't matter what mom had to say, because grandma ruled the roost. And so, but being patient with them, just being patient with them, is just learning to listen to them. It's so important. I treasure those moments. This mom was diagnosed with cancer. That for far too long, I was so busy that I didn't do things with her. And for the last few months, every Sunday, I would go over to the house and I would eat dinner with them. Now, she had been here for almost 2 years before that, and I hardly ever had time to spend time with them. But I purposed, you know what? You can be busy all you want, but there's got to be a time that that busyness stops and focus on what matters. And I realized the very fact is that I would cherish those dinners with mom. And sometimes it would be a big deal like pot roast. Mom loved pot roast on Sundays. Sometimes it was sandwiches. And sometimes, whatever it was the fact of just sitting down and just listening to them, especially mom, of the stories. Moms always have stories, don't they? A lot of times embarrassing stories. I can remember I brought my girlfriend, I was in college in Oklahoma City, I brought my girlfriend down to Florida because I was in a wedding. And of course, moms like to embarrass their kids just because they love them a lot, they said. And when I brought her there, we were doing something one of the days, and I said, Mom, let me make a cake. She said, have you told your girlfriend your experience as a child about trying to make something in the oven? No, ma'am. I kind of try to forget that story. Well, if you don't tell her, I will. So I had to tell the truth because Mom liked to embellish and make it a lot worse than it actually was. One day as a child, I was hungry, and we had a wiener dog, and I like wiener. And so I purposely, thank God I couldn't reach the oven to the temperature, but I literally put my dog in the oven because I wanted a wiener. Thankfully, there was enough eyes to catch me and made enough noise or whatever. But Mom says, well, that's not the whole story. Well, let's just leave that at that story alone. Mom, please don't tell those stories ever. Please. Don't embarrass me. I'm just sharing your life where other people can know, Mom, I don't need that type of flashlight in that part of my life. But being patient with them. To them, yes, they're trying to embarrass you, but then also it's a way of endearing themselves to you by bringing up those stories. You know, as much as I hated to hear those stories, I wish I could hear them say it again. Just those things. But being patient with them is very important because, number one, you don't know how long you're going to have them. And you don't know how long, as one of my friends just passed away with dementia, you don't know how long they're going to remember those things either. So you make the most of the time that you've been given. You say, well, I didn't do it, but they're gone. Well, you ask one to forgive you, then you try to be that way with other people and try to exact the things that you wish you could do to your mom. Not just be patient with them, but also show appreciation. Show appreciation. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18 says this. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Now, if you were asked to give a list or just a couple things about your mother, what would you say? that you're thankful for? I know that I think the biggest thing I'm thankful for is that Mom made a choice. When Dad said either abort the baby or me, Mom says, I'm not aborting the baby. He said it's either me or the baby. She said, in her kind, gentle, serene New York language, I can't repeat the church type of stuff. Basically, if you will not accept the baby, then you need to go. I'm thankful that she chose me. Very thankful. And then every chance I could, I thanked her. I'm thankful that she stuck with me. And I'm sure that you can, as you relive Mother's Day, that you just sit down and just say, well, I can't tell her that. But you can relive those memories and talk about those memories. Because by sharing those memories, you're honoring those particular moments in time. Being thankful for that. Was Mom tough? Yeah, she was tough. Was she perfect? No, she was not perfect. But she was my mom. And for that, I'm very thankful for that. Because God knew exactly what I needed to be the best Jim Fryer that I could be. And so she protected me. She shielded me from stuff. She defended me. And other ways, sometimes she would show her love with the... I was telling someone this week, they were saying that, did you ever get spanked at home? No. You never got... I said, I got beat. I didn't get spanked. What would you rather have, your mom or your dad's? I said, I'd much rather have my dad's with the razor strap, because Mom, it was the first thing she'd get a hold of. It could be a shoe. It could be an extension cord. It could be a broom. It could be just a switch. Whatever it was, that's how it was. And just I just relive those things. Just like, you know, I'm going to give you 3 swats. But the 3 swats turned out to be about 100 of us, because she would say, I told you not to do this ever again. Mom, please. I counted for just 3 swats. However, so sometimes I think, Mom, you need to go back to school and count. But I thought, no, that'd be even worse. I laugh about that now, but I regret it back then. But you know, I'm thankful for that. That makes me who I am. And that allows me to share stories with other people. You know, the one thing that endears us to people is those life stories that we can relate to. I know you relate with me because I tell the stories, because you in your lifetime shared those kinds of memories, don't you? And that brings us closer together as individuals. And when I talk to people of this generation, they kind of look at me, huh? How did you survive? I survived, that's all I did. But they say living on love. How much love there was involved. Of course, Mom would always tell me, if you don't like it, I'll give you something to cry about. You ever hear that story? Yeah. And other stories and things like that. But, you know, I'm thankful for those life stories that I can claim as myself. Now, being the oldest and 5 years older than the second sibling, is that I have memories that even my sister that's 9 years younger than I have memories of Mom that they don't have. And when I tell them those stories, well, where was that same Mom when I was that age? Well, you just had a different type of love than I know. But rejoice and be thankful for that. There's so many people that live miserable lives. Instead of looking at the positives of what happened, they look at all the negatives. You know, I'm very thankful. And I've told people I work with foster kids, and I tell them that if the foster care agencies of North Carolina, Virginia, or California, the other states I lived in when I was a child, if they were as active as what they are now, our kids, me and my sister, would have been in foster care. But we lived in a generation, we're all poor, we all didn't know we were poor, we just learned to exist and live with one another. And I'm thankful that God gave me the mother that I needed. I'm thankful for God giving me the mother to give me the life lessons and stories to tell me that has helped shape who I am, who has guided me. And I'm very thankful for that. And So just rejoice in that. And if your mom's still alive, man, you need to go to them and say, well, we're not talking. Then just do this. Send her a note. Thank you. That's it. I love you. But you only have one mom. And make the most of it. You're not always going to agree, but we're still family. And I just didn't show my lack of agreement to my mom until I was a lot older and I lived thousands of miles away. Because I knew mom would express herself. But show appreciation, but then also keep your promises. Keep your promises. Look at Psalms 89. Psalms 89. Psalms 89. Psalms 89 verse 34 says this. This goes as a general statement, is that if you promise something, you need to follow through with your word. But verse 34 says this, my covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that has gone out of my lips. Keep your promises. Mom, I'm going to call you at this time. Call. Mom, I'm gonna come and see you. There's one time that I got caught with the job, and I was supposed to go to her with lunch, and I forgot to call her. Boy, you talk about being reminded of that. And I used to think, man, that's just nagging. No. She told me later, she said, no, you know why I made such a big deal about it? Because I like to spend time with you. You're my child. And I was looking forward to, I was mentally focused that was going to be me and you time. Keep your promises. It is so important. Not just to mothers, but to other people. That should be part of our character anyway. Is that we should be people of our words. So keep your promises. You make a promise to them, keep it. Do what you have to. Communicate. There's one thing I learned the last part of Mom's life was this. She said, is that if I told her, Mom, I can't do this at this particular time, or something's come up, whatever, she liked to know that I was thinking about what I said and communicating with her. It's a mental thing. They're looking forward to that time. Keep your promises. Why? Because I was told in college when I first got married that you'll only forget your wife's birthday and anniversary one time, because if you do, you'll never forget about it. Now, thankfully, in our 36 years, Lucinda forgot one time our anniversary. Now, I would have never, ever, never said, honey, don't forget you forgot our wedding anniversary, because I would never have done it, because she would have told me, well, I got a lot of things that you forgot about too, and I'll just bring it up. And when we'll end up happening. Keep your promises. Those are some things, aspects of honoring them. You know, we have memories. We have thoughts. You know, I think about Vietnam and mom having double pneumonia. And dad's in Vietnam. And the government did not send the checks to mom. Mom was without checks for 3 months. Thankfully, back then, we were near a military base, and the military the grocery stores worked on, they used to have tabs. And so I can remember Mom barely making up there, and then setting it up where I could go there every day, get a pound of spaghetti and a jar of spaghetti sauce. And that's what I had every day for 3 months. Mom had double pneumonia. She'd wake me up, wake my baby sister up, and she'd go back to bed. And I'd get my sister dressed. Now, can you imagine a second grader trying to take care of a baby? That was the story itself. Thank God my sister don't remember that stuff. Because I remember, you dressed her like that? That's all I knew to do. Walk her across the street to the babysitter, and then come back home, have a bowl of cereal, walk to school, walk home, and then make dinner, make sure Mom had something to eat, and then walk across the street to the babysitter, make sure she was taken care of, and then Mom would help me get her ready for bed. I did that for 3 months. And she always told me, I'm not hungry, I don't want to eat. Yeah, she was hungry. But she always wanted to make sure her kids were taken care of. That was her oath by bringing us into this world that she was going to take care of us, no matter how uncomfortable those certain circumstances were. And if they could, by action, keep those promises, then we as children, as loved ones, should do the same thing to them, especially as they age. And it's very important. So show appreciation, keep your promises. Also, look at Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Laugh with her. Reminisce. Laugh with her. Reminisce. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It's those times that you connect the most with. It's those times you carry when they are gone that you're reminded of. It's those type of things that's important. Making memories, investing in time and life. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 2 through 4 says this. Well, let's go to verse 1. To everything there was a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. Laugh with her. Laughter is medicine, the Bible says. Laughter can cure a lot of ills. There's a lot of stories Mom and I used to reminisce about. Stories of us being in the station wagon with Dad somewhere in another part of the country, another part of the world, and we're traveling on the highway. And I remember one time we were traveling from California to Indiana, and Mom said, remembered that we were driving somewhere around Colorado, and she had a patch of ice, and we spun around a bunch of times, and she's made it a lot worse than what it actually was, I think. You remember how we just kind of hanging over there at the cliff down there, and you kept staring at me, and I said, no, Mom, it wasn't like that. Yes, it was, back forever. And later on, she did admit that it wasn't as bad, but it made it even more dramatic, and so those days were fun because she could tease you with that stuff because she knew I was afraid of stuff like that. But it's those memories. Mother's Day is a day of memories if our mothers are not here. And it's a day of being thankful for what we have. Like I said, our mothers aren't perfect. And I'm sure that we can bring up things that happened that probably were not the best of life. But the fact is this, that with some of the bad, you're going to have some of the good. And so reminisce. Think about it. Laugh. It's those times that's going to get you through times. This week, I had two of my best friends at the bus barn. That when I started back in 2004, they passed away. One with dementia, one with cancer. And we get a chance to go to the one with the dementia. I did talk to his son, and we chatted a little bit. We talked about stories about his dad, the bus barn stuff. And I talked to at the one that had cancer. At the funeral, he came in here and came up, gave me a hug, recognized Lucinda, and I told him that back then. I said, I will owe you a hug. Hope it never happens, but I'm going to get you back. So when I saw him at the celebration of life, first thing I did, he said, would you give me a handshake? I said, no, I'm going to give you a hug because I promised I'd return this. And he said, so tell me a story about my wife. I said, remember the times that we'd be out working at the bus barn in the morning, and you'd be bantering with other people, and your wife would say, shut up, Dave, and you would go back at your wife and say, shut up, Dave, and eventually he would say, no, who's the boss of the house? She would say, shut up, Dave, I am. And he would shut up. He said, yeah, I remember those stories too. But laughter is important. Just as much as the weeping. And the Bible does talk about weeping. Jesus wept. It's a natural emotion. But there's also a natural emotion called a laughter. Bringing up things that are pleasant. Reminiscing. Stories about so many different things. I never had a chance to fly with my mom on an airplane. My sisters have, and they have stories of themselves. But I have a lot of stories of being in a car with Mom and I by myself. Mom, where are we going to go? Don't know, just shut up, and when you wake up, I'll tell you where we're at. Yes, ma'am. So some folks says, what are you talking about? Well, when you live a transient life like we did in the military, you know what it's like if you come out of the school, the station wagon's packed, there's just a little bit of space in the very back for you to be able to kind of crawl into and kind of just, look like a ball of flesh. And Mom's up at the front. The best part about being in the station wagon is that you would actually have to stop the car if you need to beat the skid. I remember those stories too, so reminiscing. And then laughter. It's important. Look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. Look at verse 6. 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 6. It says this. But now when Timotheus came from you unto us, and brought us good tidings of your faith and charity, and that you have good remembrance of us, always desiring to see us, as we also to see you. Reminisce. Talk about stories. Talk about life. Can I tell you something that as Mom was slowly but surely fading, she told me and told the kids, thank you for taking the time to remind me of things about your life that mattered. It meant something to her as she was fading into eternity, is the fact that we had those special moments that they can, it's a reconnecting point. It's a reconnecting point. And there's too many people that don't have those memories because they chose, for whatever reason, not to be able to pursue that relationship. And I think, we had some bad times. I got basically kicked out of the house because I wanted to go to Bible college, and for 3 years, they didn't take my phone calls. I'd send a letter, and I'd get a letter back, RTS, return to sender. None of that stuff. I even tried like we used to collect phone calls. Jim Fryer, we don't have a Jim Fryer here, click. It was those hurtful times, but the time that I needed her the most. Lucinda said, you need to call her. She's going to answer, and she's going to help you. You don't know my mom. She said, but you don't know my God. And I've been praying for God to work on your heart and your mother's heart. When I needed $250, I called my mom, and she answered the phone. So I've been waiting for your phone call. I've been missing you. 3 years. That's a long time. And I was in Oklahoma City, she was in Florida. And she said, you have a need, don't you? Why would you think well, that's why you call me, right? Isn't that what kids do, call for money? Yes? She said, how much do you need? I was just shocked. I said, I just happened to get some income tax back, and I got some extra money, so I'll send it. Let me know where it needs to go to. God worked on reminiscing things. There's things like that we reconnected. We didn't live on the fact that for 3 years we didn't talk. The fact is that there's a reconnection that mattered. So reminiscing. Then also, ask for advice. Ask for advice. Look at Job chapter 12. Job chapter 12. Job 12:12 says this. With the ancient is wisdom, and a length of days understanding. There's a certain aspect of life that mothers have, a certain perspective of life that is connected with you, and they see us in a different picture. They know us more than anybody else does. They brought us into this world. They carried us for 9 months. They nursed us. They changed our diapers. They brought us into this world. As Mama said, I'll take you out. Thank God she never got that far yet. But there was a time when I just got married with Lucinda, and Mom called, and I said, how you doing, Mom? She said, what's going on with the home? I said, what are you talking about? Because every time she'd ask about Lucinda, I would not give a response. She said, are you frustrated with your new wife? No, Mom, I would never be that way. She said, don't lie to me, I know you. She said, why don't you ask me for some assistance? But Mom, you don't know Lucinda. She said, can I tell you something? I'm a woman like Lucinda is. I think a lot like her. So if you talk to me, I might be able to give you a different perspective that can help you. No, Mom, I'm okay. She said, you're so stubborn, I'm not getting off this phone till you tell me what's going on. Well, Mom, I'm busy. She said, you better not hang up on this phone. Yes, ma'am, I won't. And after a little bit, I shared, and she said, that's it? Yes, ma'am, it's horrible. Well, you ain't killed each other yet. This is what you do. This is what you do to get over this stuff. Learn to say, I'm sorry. What? Learn to say you're sorry. You'll go farther in life as a man, as a husband, to say you're sorry. But Mom, I'm the man. She said, exactly. Say you're sorry. I know you're big, bad, tough, but say you're sorry. She said, go tell her that you're sorry for whatever's been said, whatever's happened, and then you call me tomorrow and tell me how it's changed. That's all Lucinda was, an apology. I didn't even know what I did wrong. So if I say, whatever I've done and said to you that's offended you, can you please forgive me? I'm sorry. It was great, so I called Mom. She said, everything's great, isn't it? Yes, ma'am, bye. I'll talk to you later. But the fact is, learn to ask advice. Well, sometimes I already had an answer, but I wanted her to feel like she was part of my life. Because mothers want to be a part of their children's lives, don't they? They want to know about different things. They want to feel like they are useful. And there's nothing worse than a child blocking out Mom from their lives. There's something inherent about that connection of needing to feel like that, okay, you're at this certain age, and yes, you're an adult, but you always want to, as a mother, to feel like no matter what. For my mom, I was not a preacher. I was not a husband. I was her baby. And she said, you'll always be my baby. I don't care about being preaching. I didn't bring you to be a preacher. I didn't bring you to be I brought you to this world to be my son. I'm always going to be here for you. I may not have all the answers, but talk to me. Learn to ask for advice. They've already gone down a certain pathway. They know a whole lot more than what we know. But then also, pray with them. Let me ask you a question. Did you ever, have you had any memories of having a time when you got to pray with your mother? What about your children? I will tell you the most precious times that we had, and it took the end of her life to get to this point, was for my mom. And she would tell me, she said, I don't pray like you. I'm not a preacher, Mom. Let's just pray. And she would pray in her own way. Most of the time she would stop because she couldn't quit crying so much. Because it was a new experience for her. But I cherish those moments of prayer. Pray. I wish I would have known this. Well, Mom passed in 2011. I wish I would have known that before 2011. To do the simplest of things that will bring back great memories. Pray with them. Pray for them. I prayed a lot for Mom. Prayed a whole lot more, especially when she called me up in August of 2010, and she was here at the church, and she called me up. She says, you need to take me out to the hospital because she was cleaning. She said, I'm throwing up blood. And I don't know where I was at, what I was doing, but I was here real quick. And I got into the hospital, and from that time on, it was through that we found out that she had cancer. And I remember at the hospital praying with her, and she was scared. No one liked to hear those words. But I'll never forget the first time I prayed with her at the hospital. She grabbed my neck, and I thought she was going to squeeze my head off or something. And I wish I could have more of those hugs. But reminiscing and those type of things and praying with them is important. See, what's the aspect about praying? You're getting God involved in the relationship. And how many relationships could have been spared? How many relationships would be able to get over the bad feelings, the bad situations, if God was involved in those relationships? So very important. Not just that. Look at 1 Timothy chapter 2. 1 Timothy chapter 2. First Timothy chapter 2. Look at verse 1. It says this. I exhort therefore that first of all supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men. That men means mankind. Okay? Praying for that intercession be made for all men. Also says, for kings and all that are in authority. Mom was an authority. We never questioned who she was. We never questioned that when she was on duty, she was always going to be yes ma'am, no ma'am. I never called my mama by her first name. Even when I was at the bowling alley keeping everybody's scores, and her name was on the sheets, if I ever needed her, I said, Mom? She said, I'm never Mary and Friar to you. I'm always going to be Mom, and I expect that type of respect given to me. All authority. Pray. But then also, take the time to say I love you. 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. First Thessalonians chapter 3, look at verse 12. And the Lord make you to increase the bound in love one toward another and toward all men, even as we do towards you. There's certain generations of, I know for men, that to be expressive of love was not part of our generation. I know that we were not a huggy family. We rarely heard, I love you. I'm thankful for Lucinda's family. I'm thankful for Lucinda's mom. Because they were as much as we were more militaristic, they were more of the relationship building and loving of one another. And I can remember many times that she would see me and as she'd walk away, Jim, I love you. Jim, I love you. Aren't you going to say it? Well, yeah, I love you. She said, no, I don't want that. I want to hear I love you without me telling you that you need to say I love you. She had to train me to be loving, to say I love you. And there's people that have a hard time saying that. There's something that's happened in their lives that they have a hard time breaking past that bondage of saying I love you. It's so important. Say, well, those are only words, not the people. Those words change the dynamics of every relationship. Every relationship is changed by those three words. Because in our minds, the word love has so much context where we perceive what love is. And when someone says, I love you, we go into that context of love, and it makes us better or feel better during those moments. And so the aspect of being loving and showing love and talking about I love you is vital as a believer, is as a family. That was one thing I said. Lucinda taught me, her mom taught me that, and it passed on. That all of a sudden I started telling Mom I love you. First she said, "Where'd that come from? Huh? You said I love you." Well, I do. But she used to not say it before. Well, I did love you. Why didn't you say it? I didn't know I was supposed to. I said, okay. She said, I love it. And there are a few times near the end that I would call some mom, I just want to tell you one thing. So what's that? I love you. I got to go. Bye. Click. And I didn't realize how much it meant to her because my sisters were there. My dad was there when I would call, and then they would text me saying, "Mom's crying now. Thanks for making her cry." Well, she wasn't crying sad tears. She was crying happy tears. How many people have never heard "I love you"? You'd be surprised how many people that we know, how many families in their lives don't say it. They recognize it, but they can't get those 3 words out of their mouths. And there are families like that don't know how to verbally express what's in their hearts. To say "I love you" is vital. It's important. People need to hear it. Not just that. Look at James chapter 1. James chapter 1. And when they are talking, be present in the conversation. Be present in the conversation. James chapter 1 verse 19 says this. "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath." As they moved from Florida, they moved from Florida for one reason. They told my sisters this. After Mom retired from Verizon, I think it was Verizon or one of them things down in Florida, she said, "I'm moving out of Florida." Why? "Well, I've lived with you, and I've lived with you, but I've not lived with your brother. And I want to go to Kansas, spend time with your brother." And there were times that she just didn't want me to just be quiet. I just need to talk. And then get off your phone, look at me, listen to me. Yes, ma'am. "What did I just say, Jim?" I have to repeat what she said. But while you're in the moments of those conversations, be there. That's a discipline a lot of people have a hard time with. You ever got a conversation with someone that you know they're there but they're not there?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you're just wasting your time? My dad said just flapping your lips around, that's all you do. That's how Dad would say, "Son, I'm not flapping my lips. I want you to pay attention." Yes, sir. Be in the moment. If we're going to show appreciation to our mothers, we need to show appreciation to other people. We've got to garner the fact that that's a moment of time that's been expressly created for a conversation. Maybe a one-sided conversation, but everybody needs someone to talk to. Everybody does. And so while you're there in the moment, listen. But then also look at 2 John verse 12. 2 John 12. "Having many things to write unto you, I would not write with paper and ink. But I trust to come unto you and speak face to face, that our joy may be full." Learn to interact. Learn to interact. Learn to communicate. Visually, physically, mentally. Be there in the moment, but learn to communicate and interact. John said to these believers, "I'm writing letters, but I can't wait to just get beyond the writing of letters. I want to be able to see you face to face and tell you exactly what I'm putting on paper." That's what he's telling the people. You know, paper is important, pen's important, text message is important, but there's nothing that's going to be able to separate or make as much of a difference as is while you're in face-to-face public communication where you're talking to one another. We're going to honor those people. And then lastly, look at Romans chapter 13. Romans chapter 13. Romans 13 verse 7 says this. "Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to honor, custom and custom, Fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Esteem them publicly and privately. That goes back to mom saying, don't ever call me by my first name out in public. I never call them by their first name. Recognizing who they are. Talking to them. Talking positively about them. Esteeming them. You don't always have to agree with them. But there's a position of not just responsibility, but a position of relationship that's there. And then recognizing that position. Like I said, me and mom didn't agree with a lot of different things. And mom was not perfect, but thank God I had mom. There's some people that don't have a mom. They wish they did. I think about one of our foster kids. Mom was never in the picture. So with Lucinda, when she came to the house, she called Lucinda her mother. Came about a week before she passed. And Lucinda, is what she always did. Anybody that came, she gave them money. And so Lucinda said, grab my purse, there's a whole bunch of change. And so she literally took change out of her thing, said, hold out your hand. She held out her hand, and she looked at me. I said, just hold it. I'll help you find ways to take care of that. And Lucinda told her, she said, you will always be my daughter because you have so touched my heart. You're a daughter I wish I've always had. Of course, everybody broke down the room and everything. When she left, she said, what do we do with this change? I said, just put it on the table. When everybody's gone, I'll get her purse. I'll put the change back in her purse. And then this way, the next person comes get the same amount of change. Because at that time, Lucinda was not connected with everything. But the fact is that recognizing. Then at her funeral, she was not only here, but she brought her boyfriend. And I'll remember that she told her boyfriend after the casket, she said, this is the woman I wish I would have had as a mother. Openly honoring those people that have so touched your heart. Recognize that. Tell them that. It does no good to think about it. It does no good to write about it. And then when you have the moments that you have, to miss those opportunities and say, man, I wish I would have done that. And then when you find that they passed on, you live with regrets. Honor them to whom honor is due. So we're looking at Mother's Day and honoring our mothers, honoring those that have had influence on our lives. Honor them. Make much about what God has given to you as gifts. Allow you to pass by your life, to minister to you as iron sharpeneth iron, to make you that much better of a person. Father, bless us as we leave this part of the service and go to the morning worship service. Speak to our hearts. We love you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen and amen. Service will start in about 10 minutes. You are dismissed.